is about 30% virtualized today in terms of its back office systems. We started in 2006. At the time, we were looking to make a migration off some old NT platforms from a server perspective. So we consolidated considerably from about 400 physical servers down to a much smaller subset of physical servers and virtual servers back in 06. So that's where we got started. We also got started with VDI call centers, all over the planet, and really needed a better way of managing images and a more efficient way of allowing our service providers to access our ticketing systems and ordering systems and all those kind of things. So that's where we got started. Today, again, about 30% virtualized. Have a fair bit more heavy lifting to do around network management systems, around some systems that are Solaris based. So we need to move through some sub migrations before we can continue to move down the virtualization path. So we need to move systems onto Red Hat from Solaris. We also need to work with the ISVs, the independent software vendors, to get some of their software certified for virtualization. So because we're bumping into some that still, say that they don't support virtualization. So it's getting deployed on dedicated systems, but it's running at 5 to 10% utilization. So those are some of the next obstacles that we need to get beyond, and I'm quite confident that we'll get to probably 50% with with relative ease, and I think beyond that, that's going to get much more difficult, much more interesting. Everybody is running out of power and cooling in their data centers. You talk to any enterprise, most of them have tapped out power and cooling. So I think that's the most obvious one. They're looking to continue to be able to grow their business, supporting business demands. But they're out of power and space. So by consolidating, they're able to free up rack positions. They're able to free up kilowatts on their UPS. They're able to free up tons on their cracks, their air conditioning units, and their chiller systems. So that's probably the biggest driver. I think the other big driver is overall availability and disaster recovery, and being able to move workloads around flexibly, being able to spin them up quickly. I mean, contrary to some of the information that I've seen on kind of priorities and reasons for virtualization, I still think for enterprises to be able to spin up an instance in hours or days rather than weeks is huge for big business. But that disaster recovery theme is very important, and I think VMware in particular have some really great features in order to allow customers to get overall better availability. So those would be some of the big drivers from my perspective. I think we probably have another year of work to do the moderately easy stuff. I think we can continue to like I talked about today, to push the limits on under provisioning and thin provisioning, to consolidate some of those other systems, some of the systems not in our list of top 45 applications. And it's not until we hit our top 45 that I think we'll run into another set of technical and business complexities around virtualization. So I think, again, we've got about a year of work ahead of us, and then I think we'll be in the top 45. By then, we will have amassed quite a bit of experience in understanding how we did in practice around thin provisioning, and at that point we'll be able to make some business decisions around, are we prepared to be a little less conservative in moving some of these top 45 to virtualized platforms. So we've got another year. From a licensing perspective, clearly the industry's got a ways to go. I think it's still not as cost effective as it should be, because of some of the independent software vendors not structuring their licensing models to make it cost effective. So everyone wants to virtualize for all the right environmental and efficiency and disaster recovery reasons. But some of the vendors just still don't make it easy for for organizations to virtualize. So that licensing one has been very interesting, and I think the industry will come around. I think it has to, but that licensing one has been key. The other interesting parts. I mean, virtualization is typically talked about in the same vein in compute and servers, but it's part of a bigger architectural philosophy around how you virtualize, how you sweat your assets more on the storage space, in the network space. It drives a whole bunch of other technical decisions around, and even right down to the data center. So if you're going to virtualize your server, well, what about your storage? And if you're going to virtualize your storage, how will you properly structure it so that there's failover, so that if one storage frame goes down, another storage frame can take over the load. Same thing from a network perspective. If you're going to virtualize your compute, but you're not going to virtualize your network, then you're still going to have a whole bunch of sprawl at an Ethernet layer, and you're going to have a bunch of copper in your data centers, as opposed to some of the convergent stuff that we're seeing in the industry. Fiber channel over Ethernet, some of the fabric stuff that some of the network providers are coming out with. You really need to look at the full spectrum, network, storage, compute. That's been one of the other interesting learnings, and I think a lot of people spend a lot of time just thinking about server virtualization, but the storage and network is just as important. Those would be some of the primary learnings. I guess one of the other interesting things is virtualization does introduce another set of management challenges in managing a different type of technical complexity. So you reduce your footprint to a smaller number of physical servers, but it is driving up the requirements for smart talent. I mean, we're seeing the industry continue to develop in terms of overall innovation. Finding the people that know how to support this stuff, that know how to build it, that know how to operate it, that know how to design new solutions, that's getting more difficult, right? And so that's been an interesting journey for us as well, finding the industry skill that can knit it all together. Those would be some of the big challenges that we've had and finding ways to deal with, but it'll continue to be a challenge for us.